Hey, everybody, we want to welcome you to Heart with Dan and Angela.
Hi, everyone.
And we look forward to sharing with you a little message tonight. And what we wanted to talk about tonight was I made up a word, and it's called orgaholics. Like alcoholic, I call them orgaholics, those who have never left, those who are still in despite all the evidence, all the false prophecies, you sit back and you say, what is wrong with these people? And the problem with the people is that they're junkies. They're Watchtower junkies. And Watchtower's got them hooked. Watchtower's got them hooked on fear, doubt and worry, shame and guilt. And they've also been babying them. They've been enabling them. Governing body is the biggest enablers of people. I mean, they never want them to grow up. If you think about it, what parent doesn't want their kid to grow up, right? It's crazy to think you have kids that don't grow up. But Watchtower doesn't want you to grow up. And today, what inspired this video, me and Angela were watching a video this morning. And my God, it was absolutely nutty. It was totally like talking to babies. You remember? Let me see here. One of the thoughts that I had, but one of them was, it was Jehovah loves you despite you. It was a governing body talk that was talking to the people. And he was saying, Jehovah loves you despite you. And it was basically, how ugly you are, or how short you are, or the fact that you're imperfect. You could be fat, you could be short, you could have acne, you could have whatever it was. And he was, it was so weird. It was so weird. Me and Angela are like, why are they talking like kids? They're like talking to like 5-year-olds.
Oh,
I mean, really, it was like, we want you to know Jehovah loves you. He loves it. In fact, and he took them to the birds and he showed them a sparrow, and which they consider is the most ugliest bird. A lot of people love sparrows, but they're the least of them. They're not pretty like the cardinal.
So many of them.
And yet, he told them Jehovah even loves the ugly ass sparrow, which is you people out there. So he's like, despite you, despite how ugly you are, despite how fat you are, despite how skinny you are, despite how tall, short, whatever it is, be assured Jehovah loves you. And I was like, what the hell? I was sitting there going, what is this tonality? What is this baby talk? And I thought, I hear it from Stephen Lett,
Yeah, I want to see your baby blues up there, Dan.
Oh, my baby blues.
I can't see your baby blues. Okay.
I don't know if you can see them. But anyway, I was sitting there going, why is governing body talking to people like this? Why does Stephen Lett talk the way he does, in such a dramatic way? And what I realized was that people, most of us were born into this thing. Watchtower raised us. So Watchtower has had this father figure, right?
Yeah.
Over us. So they talk like their parents. And so it finally went ding today. It was like, I heard this guy talking and he was doing baby talk. I swear it went back like 5 years old. And then the song came on and it was just the same thing.
I know.
Jehovah loves you. Jehovah cares for you. Jehovah, I was like, oh my God, please help me. Please help me. I couldn't listen to much of it. And anyway, it went on and on and on. And I forget what the last part of it was, but what I feel like is a lot of people never have learned to walk in the organization. They've never learned. They've always had to hold governing body's hand. And governing body wants them to hold their hand. They don't want them to be loose. It reminds me of like a prison. You know what I mean? They feed you, they clothe you, if you get out of line, they knock you back in line. I mean, because you're a prisoner, right?
It's like the nursing home, like you did in that one video. It's like you're in a nursing home and they're caring for you to that degree. That's what it feels like to me. You know what I mean? I mean, that's a lot of hand holding.
Yes.
They have to help you with everything. I mean, in my cult that I grew up in, Worldwide Church of God, man, I'll tell you what, my mother, she had to teach you how to do everything in the bathroom. The sex department was, controlled. I mean, it really, no matter what you did, everything is controlled. What you eat.
Oh my God.
Everything. I mean, does that not sound like a nursing home?
Yeah.
It's
and the audacity.
Forget independent thinking.
And the audacity to tell someone, if you're ugly, Jehovah loves you. He said there's a good percentage. He said there's a good majority of brothers that are really uglier than shit. But Jehovah loves you. He really does. Despite you, I mean, you're a sparrow, I mean, it's okay. Don't worry about it. And anyway, I just freaked out, but I just realized that, I had to look back at my life, and I thought, my God, I remember when I was 22, I had no tools to get through life. I remembered I was going to get my own apartment, and I was sitting there going, hell, I thought the world was supposed to end. I didn't realize I was programmed, but I was like 22, 23. And I remember going into my own apartment, and I didn't have toilet paper. I didn't have soap. I didn't have shampoo. I didn't have a basket to put my stuff in. All of this because Watchtower had enabled me to be dumbed down. They enabled me to be totally helpless. I didn't know how to communicate with people. I was afraid of everybody out there. I was totally dysfunctional. I didn't know what, codependency was. I didn't know what boundaries was. I didn't know all of this stuff. I had no idea.
You had no idea about investing or handling your finances.
Yeah. Your teeth, getting your teeth fixed. It was like, the world was going to end by 75.
Right.
And so, I let it all go. And I realized, Watchtower had been enabling me my whole life. One, they've been telling me the end was going to come, right? It was going to happen in 75, then a generation, the overlap, and they kind of needled us on,
True.
But basically what I saw was they held our hands. They held our hands, and we never learned to walk. And that's what I'm starting to see when I look at the, the community of brothers who's left. It's really difficult. And it was including me. I think it took me, I don't know how many years to think. I think it took me 10 years before I started thinking. A lady told me, she said, Dan, she said, you don't know how to make decisions. You know what I mean? And I thought, what do you mean? She goes, it just takes you so long to make a decision. Make a damn decision. And I couldn't make a decision. I would have things bouncing in my head. I never learned to think. I never learned from trial and error to fail and succeed and overcome. I never had any of that.
It's funny, like in a different scale, okay, being in Worldwide Church of God, and then that translates to my parents and how they act. So my mother, she's going to control every aspect of your life, which is like the church too, okay? And so, you're so dependent on everything. Mom, what should I eat? And what should I believe? How should I look at this? How should I look at that? If you have a different opinion, then you're shot down. You're not allowed to have a differing opinion.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to see it differently or believe it differently.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to do such things.
Right.
Or you will be talked to for hours on end about why it is so, that the church is right, mom's right, whatever. You don't get to have your own opinion. So you pretty much just naturally shut down on everything. Do you see how it translates to everything?
Oh, yeah.
Because my mother, she feels like that she wants all of her chicks to live on her property, literally like a commune. And that's what she really, really wants. And then she controls everything about your life, everything. And I'm not kidding about that at all. And it's kind of sad, but then what happens when you grow up is you're so used to somebody telling you how to believe, how to think, how to poop, how to have sex, how to do everything, how to dress, exactly how to believe, how to see politics, you name it. You don't have your own opinion. So then you just shut down, because you find out that if you dare have your own opinion or a way of looking at things, you will be cut down. You might be excommunicated. You might be put out of the church for having a different opinion, like you did, when you had the opinion about,
generation.
Right. Different things like that. And you got put out or, put on apostate watch for that.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah. So that is why we got dumbed down, Dan. That is the reason.
Yeah.
We were trained to do this, this way.
And what I realize is none of it's normal.
No.
Think about it. Even kids at 2, don't they want to pull away from their mother and show you I can walk?
And how about teenagers?
Teenagers, they're ready to go. Right. I'm out of here. I'm not going to be under my parents.
Right.
But the witnesses, the Jehovah's Witnesses, they're so happy to have their hands held. They're so happy to be, I don't want to say good for nothing slave, but they don't mind being called a good for nothing slave. They don't mind not knowing where the money's going. Oh, we don't know. Jehovah knows where it's going. Jehovah's in charge of everything. and they don't mind not being in control of everything.
or knowing the real deal about the governing body. Who are they? Where did they go to college? Why do they have the right to come in there? From the very top down, from the
Yeah.
very beginning down. How come we don't think these things through? You know, I mean, same with us. Like Gardner T. Armstrong, Herb W. Armstrong, they weren't allowed to be a pastor, a self-proclaimed apostle, a self-proclaimed, you know, person who's in charge of millions of lives. Really? I don't think so. You don't just get to call yourself self-appointed, whatever you want to call yourself. You're not allowed to do that.
No.
You know, it just isn't how it is. And I don't know. It's messed up, you guys. We don't question these things. Why do we not question these things? Why do we so, you know, blanketly just accept it? Why?
Yeah. It's
weird.
I just think we were in it so long.
Yeah.
We've just been under this tyranny and authority. We've gotten used to the abuse. We've gotten used to keeping our mouth shut.
If they change their minds, we don't mind that either.
We don't change their minds. You know, the light got brighter.
Right. We don't care.
And it goes on and on. But it's so interesting. When I left, I got to tell you guys a secret of how I really got out of the witnesses. I got to tell you.
All right.
And here's what I want you to tell other people that are thinking about getting out. This was a master key. I had a friend, a lady friend, who was sort of helping me, but she was very scared. You know, she was very much, you know, she didn't want me to, you know what I mean, think she was an apostate, or, you know, she didn't want me to know a whole lot about her, but she wanted to help me out. And the one thing she told me that changed everything, and I was able to be free, was she said, Dan, you can always go back. You can always go back. And I went, oh my God, I can always go back. And so I ran out, you know, ran into some other religions, some other ideals, and, you know, other different things, and was searching. And I thought, I can always go back. And you can, right?
Right.
You can always go back.
Yeah.
So I think you can tell somebody that who's on the fence, somebody who's thinking about leaving, you could look them in the eye and you could say, you know what? You can always go back. You can go back and sit in the hall, right?
Right.
And write them a letter and say, I want to come back. And they'll let you back. After a certain amount of time, you get to come back. And so that is what freed me. Because what the lady knew was, once I had a sense of freedom, and once I had a sense of discovering who I was, you know, I never knew who I was. All I knew was I was born to pass out watchtowers and handle mics and sound and read watchtowers from the platform and pioneer when I had a chance.
You know, I know a lady, just kind of more recently in my life, who got out of the Worldwide Church of God. And, you know, my gut tells me that she really kind of misses a lot of things about it. But because her parents are out, and her brothers and sisters and whatnot, I think she doesn't feel like that's something that she ought to even consider. But I think Dan's right. Sometimes we just need to go back and revisit the past, revisit what we left. And I don't know, it kind of, it grounds you for a little bit, makes you feel a little safe for a little bit, but then you can relook at it from every kind of vantage point and every point of view. And then when you're ready to get out the next time, I bet you it'll be a little bit easier to stay out a little longer. And sometimes we have to do this thing. I call it the dance. You guys maybe heard me talk about that. But so sometimes when we get out, we don't feel safe, we feel insecure, and we need to go back, and then we'll go back out again and then back in. And maybe each time it'll be a little longer or whatever. It doesn't really matter how this dance works. It's what you got to do to feel safe and secure and good about what you're doing. And, you know, for worldwiders, we don't have to worry about sitting in the back of the hall for, you know, 2 to 10 years before you get invited back. You don't have to worry about that. You just simply apologize and humble yourself. And I don't know, it's just not that hard. You don't have to deal with all of that. You know, you could just be let back. I really do think. And, so long as they didn't think you're going to cause trouble.
Yeah. You know? And you know, I got to be honest with you. I've actually told people who couldn't take care of themselves. My brother was one of them, to go back. You know, he never really left, but he kind of drifted out. And he was so spent in his brain, Watchtower fried his brain. Watchtower completely consumed him. When I saw him, all he used to say was, Jehovah's going to kill you. Jehovah's going to kill you. Right. And, anyway, I told him, you need to go to the meetings, Phil. You need to go to the meetings, right? And I've told that to other people that cannot stand on their own 2 feet. I mean, if you need to be told every day, the end's going to come tomorrow, if you need to be, tapped on the shoulder every time you overdrink and have an elder tell you, now you got a handle on this now, right? You're not going to do this anymore. If you need to be talked to as a child and you need to be guided as a child and you refuse to grow up and stand on your own 2 feet, then I think you should go back. Yeah, I was going to tell that to one of Angela's friends. Yeah, you know what I mean? I was going to tell her it was a worldwider. I was going to say go back, because the lady says she had a different experience. It was good. It was wonderful. It was amazing. And it's like, well, what are you talking to me for? Go back. Why'd you ever leave? If it serves you, stay with it. Whether it's witnesses, whether it's Christian, whether it's worldwide. If it serves you, it doesn't matter if your parents leave, your friends leave, whatever. I mean, people are coming and going all the time. So I want to tell her that. Well, we'll go back. If it's a good experience, and I don't mean it in a bad way. I don't mean it like,
Oh no.
go back and get the support you need. Some people love groupthink. Some people like being all the same and saying they all believe the same and knowing the all end's going to come the same time.
We are tribal. We all feel safe in tribes and in groups of some kind that you choose. And so for Dan, he had to tell his brother, Phil, you need to go back to the Kingdom Hall, even though Dan had been out for already, 4 years, 5 years at that point. But it is what he needed to do at that time. It really was. It's what made him feel safe and secure. And it was important for him. And so we don't, there's no condemnation about that. You got to do what you got to do.
My older brother, he lost 2 kids when he was young, right? So the witnesses come to the door and say, hey, they're gonna be in the paradise, right? So he's been in all this time. He lost two daughters, and he's my older brother, and I think he's the presiding overseer, and he gives talks to the assemblies. And I would never try to get him out of there. I mean, I have, I have sent him an email or so, or a YouTube video or
Not
so,
much, but
because I feel sorry for him. Yeah, I do. I feel sorry for him because he's in that box. He's in that guilt. He's in that tyranny. He's in that slavery of Watchtower. He doesn't realize he's a Watchtower salesman, that he's been groomed to pass out literature. At one point, they didn't really need all your money. You were just a good salesman. You were bringing people in. You were a body. You could build kingdom halls and you paid for the literature. And so that was enough. You know what I mean? And that was a lot of money. And so anyway, I just wanted to tell you that was one of the things that literally catapulted me forward, was that lady saying you could always go back. So maybe tell that to some of your people. Say, you just might want to take a break. Maybe you don't think it's all wrong. Maybe you've had a good time. I had a good time in there for a lot of years. But, tell them you can always go back.
What's odd too, Dan? Some people haven't, and the Jehovah's Witnesses haven't had a bad experience. You know what I mean?
Right.
They've had a good experience.
Yep.
And yet maybe one event caused them to leave. But in everything about their life, they feel that it's the truth. And I think it's important that we be truthful with ourselves about things. You know what I mean? Not what other people want us to believe, or not what other people are expecting. Now that we're out, we've got to be like everybody else, but we got to be really honest with ourselves about how we feel about everything. You know what I mean? And start asking maybe questions like, well, why is it that I do believe that? Do I absolutely know that to be true? Absolutely. And I don't know, you know what I mean? Like we don't make the truth our own sometimes. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Right.
We just do it because it's what feels right. And that's not always bad either.
No.
But I do feel like to really be free and not be on the fence, you got to do the research. You got to do the digging. You got to do the prayer work. You got to do the talking to God about it. You got to, dig a little in the internet. You got to, you know what I mean? You got to dig down deep and get to the bottom of things, not just, just not go with the flow and not take responsibility. If we're going to stop being children and being real adults, which is what they've done us down to become like children, we have to grow up and take responsibility and get to the bottom of why I believe exactly as I do about everything. Like I re-looked at the Sabbath day for a while, and the holy days and clean and unclean foods. In my religion, we didn't eat pork or shrimp and all that. I revisited it. And I even, quit eating the pork and all that for a while. And then I started keeping the Sabbath day, and then I really, really did some soul searching. I really, really prayed a lot about it. And then I came to my final truth about it. And now I feel good about it. It's my own, it's between me and God. And I feel what I've chosen
Yeah, you've made it your own.
I've made
You've
it
done
my
your
own.
research.
Yes.
And I want to talk, can I say something
Yeah.
about that?
Mhm.
I want to say that too to people. Nobody can do your research.
No.
You know, everyone's like, well, what do you believe, Dan? What do you believe, Angela? It doesn't matter what we believe, because what we believe, we've come to the conclusion through my studies, my understanding, my spiritual
More
walk, and
prayer.
my prayers, you know, whatever. And I've come to certain conclusions, but I cannot save you. I cannot come to conclusions for you. I would never try to do that. You've got to do your due diligence. If you want to walk on your own 2 feet, and you want to come out of Watchtower and you want to be able to stand on your own 2 feet, you've got to do your own research. You've got to take responsibility for yourself. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And, you know, as you guys know, I was an alcoholic for a lot of years. And my lady mentor that I was with told me there was two things that made me quit drinking. One, my mentor told me, don't you ever come over my house again when you've been drinking. And I'm thinking, boy, what a bee, you know, I've only had a couple beers, you know. She says, never again, don't come over my house like that. If you want to learn and you want to grow and you want to find out about yourself and I want you straight. And she says, and another thing, I think you should go to AA, you know, Alcoholics Anonymous.
Or was that her husband who told you?
No, she did.
Yeah. Oh, interesting.
And with George, you know, her husband, she says, I want you should go to AA with George.
Funny.
And so I did. And all of a sudden I start hearing these stories, you know, from the people up there. I did this and I did this. And I said, man, that's me. And a lot of people haven't done that. I don't think a lot of witnesses have done that, went into a 12-step and learned about these things. But anyway, I went into the 12-step and I said, that's my story. That's my story. That's my story. And I said, holy shit, I might be an alcoholic. You know what I mean? And then I met Angela, and I was drinking at her mother's house, and I think I drank a bottle of wine or
Well,
something.
we both shared a bottle of wine.
Yeah.
And but my mom thought that was extremely unusual because she'll have a quarter of a glass of wine and she's out for the night.
Yeah, and
You
I
know,
was ready. I was ready to open the second bottle. You know, I was getting started. You know, I was like, you know, hey,
Is that right?
yeah,
For real? Oh my
I was
God.
ready to do 2 or 3 bottles.
Oh, jeez.
You know, and anyway, I looked at Angela and I said, man, she's really a wonderful lady and really a good person. And my God, you know, and all of a sudden it just hit me like, this shit has screwed me up for 40 years. 40 years. This stuff has screwed me up. And I said, can I put it away for this lady? Can I put it in? And I know you don't do it for other people, but it literally screwed me up.
Well, you know, you were really wanting to get some help. And
Yeah.
so she was a very somebody you trusted and
Yep.
believed in and respected and saw as whole. And so was that worth it to you? And so for your own soul's sake, it was worth it to you.
Yeah.
So you didn't drink when you were around her.
And I came out of denial. And that's the hardest thing, because most witnesses would never call themselves drunk. And I mean, I never even said I ever got drunk in my life, even though I got drunk all the time. I would never say I got drunk.
Yeah.
I would never say that. It was like I just overdrank, but I never got drunk. And so to say you're an alcoholic is like way off the charts. And I got to tell you, if you know somebody who's an alcoholic, you know, you don't want to tell them they're an alcoholic. You know, you can't tell them. That's a conclusion they have to come to. All you can do is say, you know, you might want to just take a look at your life. You know, is it improving? Is it getting better? Then that's good. And even if you have alcohol and your life's getting better, then obviously you can handle alcohol. But if your life is falling apart and completely deteriorating, you might want to take what they call a fearless and moral inventory. And if you're helping an alcoholic, I'm going to suggest, and Angela knows this is so, you need to take an Al-Anon class. Al-Anon is for, I say women, but it's for women or men that have been abused by an alcoholic, you know, and they'll teach you things like tough love, boundaries, you know, all these things you have to set.
No.
And so I asked my spiritual teacher, I said, how come you're such a hard ass? How come you told me never to drink again? And, you know, all this stuff. And she says, my husband's an alcoholic. And let me tell you what I went through. She said, every day he would come home and say, I'm going to kill myself. I'm going to kill myself. You know, it's kind of like, if you don't feel sorry for me, if you don't, you know, get emotionally involved with me, I'm going to take myself out. He was the breadwinner. He an anesthesiologist, he made a lot of money and they had a good life, but he'd come home with this gun. And so this lady went to Al-Anon and Al-Anon told her, you've got to set a boundary. You got to say, don't you ever do that again, ever. And so, and she's like, she got it, because she said, as long as you allow your husband to do this to you, then he'll pull the gun every time he wants to get his way, every time he wants sympathy, every time he wants you to.
And then all you do is worry, 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 worry.
Yeah, and you give him what he
death.
wants, sympathy, anything he wants. You're allowing him to drink, you're allowing him to. So the lady went in, and this is a true story. She went in and got the gun, put some bullets in it, cocked it, and said, here, blow your damn head off. I'm done with you. And he looked at her.
And just do it. Just
do it. She goes, just do it. And he looks at the gun and he starts shaking, and she goes, do it. Do it. Get her done. I'm tired of this. You're not going to hold me in bondage anymore.
Prisoner.
And that was it. He put the gun down. The game was over. But she learned that in Al-Anon. In Al-Anon, there's classes all over your city. There's Alcoholics Anonymous. You type in Alcoholics Anonymous, there's an app for every state, every city. There's an app, and it'll show you 50 places. You'll find them. There's 7 days a week.
Yeah, there are.
Go ahead.
I just shoot, I forgot what I was going to say about him. Oh yeah, about him cocking the gun. Well, she was truly a prisoner in agony and misery every day, and threatening you like that.
What do you want me to do?
How do you live like that? Honestly, worrying that your husband's going to maybe do that even when you're not home, and just having that fear all the time, thinking he might really do it, and you just can't live with that anymore.
You can't.
So I get that, but I wanted to point out one other interesting thing, and that's that this is the same exact thing as choosing not to grow up, to stay a child. It's like, you're going to stay dumbed down, and you're not going to take a responsibility. See, she was telling Dan, if you want to take a responsibility for your life and you want to better it, then you're going to have to, grow up and not drink and not whatever. It's like, to me, choosing to not drink and take responsibility for your life is the same as saying, I'm not going to keep being a child with a dumbed down brain and not make my own decisions about every single choice and reason why I believe what I do and why I do what I do, and letting everyone else make all the choices and all the decisions and all the thought processes and how to see things and believe things. To me, that's not taking responsibility. And to me, that's exactly like an alcoholic.
You end up carrying them. You end up carrying the person.
Right.
Their load.
Right. That's true. But who's glad to carry it is the governing body.
Oh, yeah.
And the leaders in the church I grew up in world. They wanted to carry it for whatever reason. And I think it's because they wanted to control the people, and if they keep them dumbed down enough, they won't, they're not going to argue, and they're not going to use their own brain. They're just going to follow, and then they'll keep paying. In our church, we took tithes, a lot of money in tithes. And so that was their motivation.
So they could overlook that.
Right. So then not just they had to do it to get everything out of you that they wanted.
Good point.
So you just
kind of keeps you dumbed down, too.
Right. And so you stay a child. But see, that again, that is our choice. If we want to stay a child, I mean, look, if my mother had her way, I would be living at her property. I would be her slave, doing all her bidding and all of her everything. And I would have no life of my own. My weekends would not be my own. Everything about my life, how I did sex, how I ate, what I ate, all of it, what I watched on TV, what I did, just everything is controlled. And the church was the same way. And so again, my choice, I take responsibility for that and say, no, I'm not doing that. And with that comes consequences. Sometimes they'll kick you out of the church. My mom, she might quit talking to you. She might badmouth you to my sisters and, ruin your reputation and destroy you.
Yeah.
But you know what? I say it's worth it to me, because I want to be able to be me and do me, and have my own mind, grow up, make my own choices, make my own decisions, know that I know, have my own relationship with God. I mean, in the church I grew up in, the relationship with God meant you obeyed the holy days, you kept the Sabbath day, you did all these certain things, and that's your relationship with God. We didn't have a relationship with God, and I know that's the same with the witnesses. That same lady asked Dan, well, what kind of relationship do you have with God? If you didn't have what do you call it, the New World Translation, if you didn't have that,
would you know God?
Would you know God?
If you didn't have Watchtower Bible and Tract Society, the governing body, would you know God? See, witnesses would have to say no. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because they know Jehovah through the governing body.
right.
So I realized that when that lady asked me that, she said, what would you do if they took away your Bible and there was no more governing body? I laughed. I go, oh, there's always going to be a governing body. And she goes, but just say it collapsed and fell over. And I'll tell you, horror come through my mind. Horror. Like, holy crap, I don't know who I'd be without daddy. I don't know who I'd be without, the governing body telling me every part of my life,
Yeah, and if they told you wear brown, would you? And then, of course,
Yeah.
Dan's like, oh, well, yeah, I guess I would.
Yeah, that's what the lady said. If
It's
the
like-
watchtower told you to wear brown, would you wear brown? And I thought, they're not going to tell us to wear brown.
And then, of
And
course,
she goes, but if they told you to wear brown, would you wear
Would you?
brown? And I thought about it, and they said, if the watchtower, right, coming out from Jehovah, down in the organization through, to the watchtower, and it said, wear brown every day. Would you wear brown? And I said, holy crap, yes, I would. I'd wear brown.
and then, of course, you have to ask yourself, what else would you do, right? Drink the Kool-Aid, right?
That's right.
I mean, it just gets down to it. But we all have to take responsibility at some point and stop being a child. And
Yes.
take responsibility for whatever it is, including what you believe about everything.
Yes.
And then when we got out, we had to go through piece by piece, bit by bit. What is it that I think about this? What is it that I want about? What do I want? Where do I want to live? What do I want to eat for breakfast? What do I like? I had to go through everything, like starting over again.
Mhm.
But you know what? It was actually kind of fun.
Yeah.
You can make it fun.
It's self-discovery.
Right.
You
You don't
get
have to
to discover who am I? God made me in his image and likeness, kind of unique, not better, not more, not less, but he made me kind of unique from everybody else. And it's kind of cool to discover who you are, not who I am, who Angela is, right?
Well, like digging and trying to find out, is that all God is known by is the name Jehovah? For example, Dan and I got to go through this process together.
Yeah.
And digging. Is that really what all the Bible has to say about God's name? Is it's just Jehovah, right? So that's a whole discovery in itself. And actually, it's fun.
Yes.
It's actually fun. You don't have to dread it. It's not a dreadful thing. It's a discovery. And the more you do it, the more you realize
The more
that,
enlightened you are, the more aware you are,
and
the more.
you feel good about your decision of having left,
That's
if
right.
that's what you had decided to do, right? Or if you came up with the same conclusion, then you're glad you went back. Whatever, right?
That's
You
right.
just have to make the truth your own, and
Yep.
to thine own self be true.
Yep.
That's the important part. So anyway, anyone,
I'm happy to say, how long have I been sober now?
well, 18 years and a few months.
18 years. Haven't touched a drop other than a communion. I haven't touched it and don't want it, don't desire it, don't need it, don't want any part of it in my life. And I also want to say, I just thought about when Angela mentioned the movie, I was thinking about Watchtower, the Watchtower movie. Don't you think that was pretty close to a PG-13? I mean, there was killing in it. There were people chasing them with machine guns. That was
Yeah.
pretyou close to PG-13, Watchtower.
It sure
I'm going to call it a
was.
PG-13.
Yeah.
And the other thing I want to say, and you always got to be careful when you say this, but because you're under the authority of these men, they make all of your decisions,
Oh yeah.
even your medical decisions.
Oh,
And what I
yeah.
want to say
Jeez.
is it's what's happening, what's coming up right now is
Hokey
hokey pokey. Hokey pokey's coming. And we know Watchtowers stand on that. We know what they did. And boy, that's going to be scary.
Yeah.
And the people, do they really have a choice? I mean, Jehovah says, through the governing body, Jehovah says it's hokey pokey, and it's scary.
It is
And
scary.
anyway, but because, and here's the only reason something like that would happen is because you won't learn to walk on your feet. You won't pull those damn hands down and say, get your hands off me, governing body. I'm walking on my own. I'm going to figure shit out. I've listened to you long enough. You know what I mean? We played this game of father and son. I'm tired of being talked to like a baby. And I'm sick of it. I mean, I heard it today. We couldn't listen to it for more than 15 minutes, could we, Angela? It was baby talk. It was baby talk. Jehovah knows how much money you have in the bank. If you're hiding something out, Jehovah loves a cheerful giver, and you might not be
Only
giving
talks a lot
exactly.
slower than
Yeah,
that.
it's way slower. It's a form of hypnosis. It really is.
I
And
think so.
it's the way they talk to them since they were that big. I know I was in since I was that big.
Yeah.
So most of them that are in there now are doped up. They're junkies.
And it is, it's
they're-
hypnotic, no doubt
Yeah,
about
they're
it.
JW Orgaholics. And I think that's the name I'm gonna promote, that the witnesses now that are still in are JW
Orgaholics.
Orgaholics or Orga junkies. Yeah, you know what I mean? Because they can't get enough of the lies. They can't get enough of Watchtower lying to them, leading them, spanking them, scolding them, disciplining them, telling them they're good for nothing. You know what I mean? Pointing out everything they're doing wrong, telling them when you wish to do right, bad is you're miserable. You know, I mean, how much can you hear? And now, oh my God, they said they're starting up the Noah series again. How many ways can you look at the damn Noah story? 8 people lived and all the rest died because they didn't listen to the Jehovah's organization, because they didn't listen to Jehovah and the people he has in charge. I mean, God, I heard that today and I wanted to scream.
Honestly, it's the same old story. I mean, when I first met Dan and I went to the convention, it was in Denver, Colorado at that time. Dan took me, and he wasn't going there, but he wanted me to see what it was like. And they did the same kind of play. It's only, it just wasn't the Noah.
Listen, they all died.
Right. It was not the Noah story, but it was just like it. It's the same old, same old. You know, it's like, look, we have to make decisions for ourselves. When it comes to the hokey pokey thing, you got to know that you know, and because you're responsible for yourself before God, your children, you're responsible before God to take good care of them. And look, do you know absolutely that you know that the governing body was chosen by God Almighty, by if you want to call him Jehovah, whatever, Jehovah.
You don't want to make another
You
decision.
absolutely know that. Or are they self-appointed like the leaders in my church that I grew up in? Self-appointed apostle of God.
Yeah.
You know, that doesn't fly by me. I'm sorry.
No.
So you're going to make your decisions based off a man who self-appointed.
Life and death decisions.
You know,
life and death.
I mean, did they go before a committee? Were they, what do they call that when they check over a president? When they check them out carefully,
like
vet it out, they vet them
organs. They used to be able to take organs when they did a transplant, and then they called it cannibalism, and then they said they could take them. After so many people died because they couldn't get an organ, then they said, well, it's a conscious manner, organ transplant.
So God's just flippant like that then? You know, it's like, what?
Yeah.
That don't fly by me. I'm sorry. But anyway, you guys, please, I'm begging you to make your own choices, make your own decisions, vet things out, vet the people out, vet the governing.
Start thinking.
Look, how long ago was it that you guys just began to realize the names of the governing body? Did you know who the faithful and discreet slave were? For how many years did you not know who they were? Think about that.
They were the Wizard of Oz.
It's messed up.
Behind the
But
curtain.
you don't even know their names. You don't know where they came from, their background. You don't know their reputation. You just know that they were just chosen by men. That those men were self-appointed. Whoa, you know.
Well, that's what my mentor said. She's like, so what's it like following those little 8 men in New York that you never met? And I said,
yeah.
How dare you say it? What do you mean I never met him? She said, well, have you ever met him? And I said, no. And she said, you ever seen him? No.
Do you know their names?
Yeah, I didn't even know their names. But yet I'm following them with giving my whole life to them, my whole childhood.
You know anything about them?
I didn't know anything about them.
And yet they say that they hear from God. And somebody who was there, I've said this before, said, and who were at Bethel and worked in that department said, we don't sit around asking the Holy Spirit to come on us and tell us what. We don't do that. We just sit around and have a meeting. We talk about what we're going to put in the article, and that's it. That's how it really was. So we're fooling ourselves, guys.
Yes.
We've been duped.
Yep. Well, guys, we're going to wrap this thing up. Anyway, we want to wish you, it's Thursday night, we wish you a great weekend.
Yes.
And thanks for letting us share with you. Thank you all for all your comments. We always appreciate them. We always try to get back with you. And thank you so much. And we love all you guys.
Yes,
we really do love all you guys.
We do this because we love you.
Yes. And we like to think of different angles, different ways of looking at things. because this thing needs to look at it from different angles.
Yes, it
It's
does.
it's had this tunnel vision from Watchtower. Only look at it this way. Don't think, don't use your brain, don't use your
Yes.
heart. Just follow what we said and leave the rest to us.
And
We're,
that's
we're
what-
the driver in your car, right?
And that's what Marcia did for Dan. She helped him break everything down. So
Start
that's-
thinking.
So now he's trying to do that himself to try to pitch in and help, anyone who needs that, right? So
Yep.
I wanted to remind you that if you want to know how Dan exactly, that whole story he's told you today, it's all in this book. Eyewitness, the shocking insider story of Jehovah's Witness by Daniel Clark. And I'm the co-author of it. But anyway, great little book. And also too, if you need a little bit of help with the little particulars, the secret brainwashing techniques of Jehovah's Witnesses, 5 steps to escaping the web of JW indoctrination, that you can get online by, it's a, what do you call it? Not PDF,
You can see the guy
digital file.
Hanging from Watchtower's web.
Anyways, if you think that might help you, you can check that out. And also I've got a book too, Awakening from Unconscious Resentment. But these are the books I think would fit this particular show. If you're
About
interested.
a journey
on
out,
Amazon.
out of Watchtower.
And you can get them cheap. I think they're $2.99 on Amazon on the digital format.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're still, I think, $12.99 or
Yeah.
so on the book that you can buy. So anyway, if that will help you, it's exactly how Dan got through all of this, and the stories that he told you tonight are all in there, every bit of it. So anyway, that's it. We love you
All right.
guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks
If
for
you feel it
listening.
helped you, pass it on. Like I said, once it's on YouTube, it's free to use however you want. So
Right.
send it out, do whatever you want with it, but hopefully share it with somebody who needs to hear it and help them start to think and reason their way right out of there.
And make it fun. It doesn't make it a drudgery.
Make it fun.
Yeah. All right. Over and out. We love you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.